Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. That's right. It's Neil, substitute teacher. It's up at the front of the class. We're ready to go. Coming off a big weekend in the Lone Star State, deep in the heart of Texas to celebrate Mr. and Mrs. Big. Randy, fired up about it. I got a couple other people that might be moving a little slow today. KVV, calling in from Baltimore. How was your travel day?
Travel day was good. Voice is a little hoarse from having sung Friends in Low Places at the top of my lungs at some point last night. I feel like Friends in Low Places is our true national anthem, Neil.
I was right there with you, brother. You know,
You were.
You want to know Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places. That's Garth Brooks. TC calling in from Jacksonville. TC, I know you're burning on the TSA pre-check line at Austin Airport, but we're here to talk golf tonight. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still furious about the Clear experience this morning. It was bad as always. But no, great to be home. I'm more tired than I am hungover. Just 3 nights in a row going out in Austin. I'm just tired.
Well, we'll talk a little wedding on the back end, but we're fired up for the big man. It was a wonderful celebration. Tonight, talk a little Hero World Challenge. Scottie Scheffler wins his second consecutive Hero World Challenge down in the Bahamas. We're going to talk LPGA commissioner resignations, maybe some LIV defections, maybe a little Aussie Open recap because we put out our Jeopardy episode last week. So we're kind of covering 2 weeks here tonight. And then we've got an E9 prepared by Chef TC. Served up by KVV. I'm excited for that. Just some odds and ends at the end here. Do a little housekeeping and then one for the road. Our very own Jordan Perez will be diving into an interesting kind of golf adjacent topic. But KVV and I recorded this with Jordan earlier this week, and it was very, very interesting. I think you should stick around for it. So, did you guys know there were 4 OWGR ranked events played this week around the world?
No,
I didn't know there were 4.
Yeah, there were 4. And all 4 ended the same way with a Titleist golf ball player at the top of the leaderboard. It was a 1-2-3 finish for the Pro V1 and Pro V1X players in the Bahamas. Joaquin Niemann, my guy,
Joaquin
Niemann, my guy, played Pro V1X in winning the Asian Tour season finale. Johannes Veerman took home the Nedbank in South Africa, gaming a Pro V1X, and down under, Corey Crawford won the Victorian PGA Championship, also gaming an X. And of course, Big Randy claimed a huge title this weekend, husband, and he also plays a Pro V1X. How about that? Love that copy.
He's
right
the
there.
lowest spin player in the world.
That's right. There's a reason it's the number 1 ball in golf. And with gift-giving season upon us, there's a reason it's also the number 1 gift in golf. This is your final warning, people. Don't miss out on Titleist Holiday 2 dozen pack, where you can save $10 on 2 dozen Pro V1 and Pro V1X models while supplies last. Even better, there's a free standard shipping on all Titleist.com orders through the end of the year. Thank you to Titleist, as always, for their sponsorship.
Golf balls are an underrated Christmas gift. They're
sure.
They wrap really nicely. They're heavy and substantial. Like nobody's ever been upset to get top of the line high quality golf balls. I've been upset to get bad golf balls.
Sure.
But also, if you personalize them, it's like
the customization is sweet.
That's incredible. Every year, think about getting like my brother-in-law, my dad, little personalized golf balls. It always puts a smile on their face.
I love it. All right, gentlemen, let's start down in the Bahamas at the Hero. So after 2 months away, Scottie Scheffler won his second consecutive Hero World Challenge on Sunday with a 9 under par 63 to tie the tournament record at Albany Golf Club and win by 6 shots. He started the day 1 back of JT, who finished 3rd, and he finished 6 ahead of young Tom Kim, who had a good week. A couple fun facts just to set things up before I get your takes, TC. 9th win of 2024, so 7 of those were PGA Tour wins, an Olympic gold medal in the Hero World Challenge. I guess you could throw the President's Cup in there if we want to count team wins.
This is an unofficial win, though.
Yeah, but, if we're going to add them up, 9 total wins. First player since Tiger Woods in 2009 to spend an entire calendar year at number 1 in the world, which I found to be an interesting fact. I saw that on the PGA Tour article or kind of write-up this morning, the Associated Press write-up this evening, excuse me. $1 million purse was the second lowest for a win this year, which I also found kind of interesting. Crazy. The lowest was $37,500 for winning the gold medal in the Olympics. That's what the Olympic.
I would say he got paid. He got paid for the President's Cup win too, though, right?
Yeah, I guess Maybe, yeah. So individual win, let's put it that way. And then you know what? The news of the week was Scottie unveiled the claw grip on putts inside 15 feet, and he finished third in strokes gained putting for the week. So apparently he's been working on that with Phil Kenyon, and they just decided that this was maybe a good stress-free spot to test it out. So TC, what are your thoughts here on Scottie's back-to-back down in the Bahamas? Big news, no news. What do you think?
First of all, great to see Dr. Munjal.
Of course.
It's always a yearly highlight. His mustache and just overall coif and aesthetic just look.
You see, can't Dr. Munjal put up more than $1 million for this? Come on.
Well, so he's putting up $1 million for the first prize. Last place, I think there's what, 20 guys in the field?
20
guys in the field. Last place gets 150 grand.
Okay. Well,
so it's kind of a weird, like the Grant Thornton's a similar deal. I think only 3 of the top 10 in the world showed up this year, which is, it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. I've always been pretty critical of this event, just generally speaking. And it feels like there's less of a need. Like the purses have gotten so big across the season and the bonuses that there's less of a need to kind of top these guys up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting with world golf ranking points too, where it was a weaker field than last year, but Scottie actually got more points from winning just because bottom 3 guys in the field don't get ranking points, which was a big sticking point in years past of like, hey, why are we giving guys that didn't beat a single player or beat one player? Like I think Tiger rose up 300 or 400 spots in the world rankings after finishing second or third to last year. So all that said, thrilled to see Scottie in the claw. That's sick. Like
I
he
thought
needs
that
to
would
try
get you
more
jacked up,
stuff.
TC.
You know, like if you're not putting well, try something new. Try, like it's the stranger, man. Just try it.
Yeah.
You know,
it feels like he was putting a lot better though. Once he switched, well known, switched to the mallet. It seemed to kind of solve a lot for him. But I saw an interview he did after his Thursday round, and he was saying just mechanically the way he takes it back, that the claw does a lot to get the club head or keep it on plane a lot longer, is what he and as he was saying, Phil and I have been working on this for a few months. So it's great to know that he's tinkering at home, KVV.
Yeah, for the year, Scottie was 77th in strokes gained putting. Most of that would have been after the mallet switch, gaining 0.095 strokes. So, I mean, imagine if Scottie like putts where he's like a top 25 putter on tour. I was watching a little bit today, just thinking, man, if Scottie gets a little bit better, everybody is in real trouble.
Yeah, and is that a good thing or a bad thing?
If he gets
better.
I think it's a good thing. It would set a real standard for like, this is the dude. He's going to win 3 majors this year or whatever. I mean, that's a standard that you want to chase. He's not going to win 3 majors, but if he was that dude who was like dominant, I think it would really set the narrative pretty easily for this season.
Neil, are you a big Hero guy?
It's the beginning of the seasonal depression season up here in New York City. It is a fun place to look at. And just imagine, like, I've never been on a yacht even a third of the size of some of those parked in that marina. I'm like, no, what is that place like? I'd probably like to go down there and check it out, TC. I don't need to watch all 72 holes of it though, but trying to, catch the back 9. I think there's some fun looking golf shots out there. And, there still are, I know the field isn't as strong as it was last year or in years past, but it's still fun to see like 20 names that like everybody there, who they are. Ludwig had a good showing. They did a walk and talk with him on Thursday. So I think it's kind of that Kapalua vibe a little bit, where it's those guys seem like they're in a good mood. It's kind of stress-free. And so that sometimes that feeds through the TV to me. The announcers are happy. They're all getting a tan. So the good mood is contagious for me.
Hopefully your guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, he's up there in New York as well. He used to hang out down in Albany. Hopefully he got to watch some of it too.
He might have some seasonal depression this year.
He very, very well could have some seasonal
especially
depression.
with crypto just popping off too.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
the wave.
Neil, one of my favorite stories, legendary story at ESPN the magazine, was when my guy Wright Thompson got it approved to rent a yacht so that he could park it in the arena down there during Albany. That led to the famous Kill House story, sort of spying on Tiger for a week or so. He ended up having dinner. He basically argued with a boat anyway. I don't know if it was quite a yacht, but it was like one of the bigger expenses in the history of ESPN the magazine that he was able to get it approved so that he could kind of be in Tiger's orbit for a week. And throughout the week, he was like texting us pictures of himself having dinner with Sean Connery and such. So
I have
that
to
was
be
the
on the
year
water.
that,
I have to be. It's the
Yeah.
only
That
way I
was
can
the
get
week
close to
that-
the cat.
that Tiger said, like, he called down to the marina staff and he's like, "Can you secure the tennis ball?"
That's right.
Secure the tennis
It's a
ball.
legend.
God.
I mean, Tiger. We'll talk Tiger later on in the episode, I think. But
Anything else from the hero, gentlemen? Any other TC you want to go down the leaderboard at all? Anything that stands out to you?
good to see. I know JT's been speed training his butt off. It seems like this off season or this. I hesitate to call it an off season.
He's been stacking.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if he's been
Neil,
stacking, but he
yeah,
should
I don't
be.
know what he's been doing.
No free out there. We're not sure if that we can.
Yeah, but he, 71 on Sunday kind of faded a little bit. Akshay playing nice, and Keegan. I remain very skeptical that I think Keegan is going to qualify for the Ryder Cup team.
I want him to just take himself out of it, TC. I do not want to have this debate all year about whether Keegan should be a playing captain. I think that would be a great, I'm sure would love it, but that'd be a great way for my guy to really fall on his face hard.
It would be like if Aaron Rodgers said, like, "Hey, I want to be the head coach of the New York Jets next year."
That would be very intriguing.
So KV, to be clear, you're hoping he doesn't qualify, auto qualify, or select himself. You don't want him on the team.
I think I would say no. I want him to just captain. I think he should say right now, if I qualify, will not serve. I am solely the captain this year. I do not think I should have a playing opportunity. I mean, part of the reason he got the captaincy, right? Because he was so like despondent and hurt that he would basically never get a chance to play in the Ryder Cup. So the PGA of America was like, you know what? Let's right this wrong. Let's make this guy our captain. He's connected with the youths. So I just do not want that debate to be, although clearly it will, but dragging on all year about whether Keegan can play and be the captain at the same time.
I am fully on the opposite side of that argument. I think it would be fantastic for content, and it could be a total disaster, or it could lead to him being kind of enshrined as a U.S. golf hero. But it's it's such a unique situation that I don't think we'll see, or maybe we will. These guys are all playing a little bit, or playing good into their old age, but I would love to see this type of unique situation this year, and I would like to see him qualify on merit so that he doesn't have to select himself. That's the part I don't want him to put himself in that position to pick himself.
Good for our content, but not so good for my brand personally, but good for us in general.
Yeah, for sure. For me, this is a personal take.
Yeah,
for sure.
Neil, the only other thing I think, let's see here, just looking, Jason Day did not play well. I think he's exhausted from the travel back from Australia. That's probably going to knock him out for a couple months here. And Ludwig ramping back up, kind of bookend 67s there, first and fourth round. So good to see that.
PTC, the blow pig, not so good.
Blow pig, not so good. Nick Dunlap, not so good. Dunlap shot 76 today. And been getting a lot of people tagging me in some stuff on Instagram that Dunlap stole Koala Carl's girl.
Don't know that.
On the gram. So.
TC, something for you to monitor. Keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
We'll let you do some digging on that one. I want to shout out young Tom Kim. A little NLU bump. We'll put out a "What's in the Bag" video on Titleist's YouTube channel, and there he is in second again. And for it's funny to think back. I filmed that video with him during the Travelers Week, and that's when he was in the playoff with Scottie.
That was when the climate protesters
and the climate protesters. Yeah, I was like, God, that was a wild week. But he was very dialed that week. So good video. He's getting these guys talking about their craft is like it's never uninteresting for me. So what a thrill. All right, let's move on. LPGA commish stuff is what it's labeled here in the agenda. TC LPGA commissioner Mollie Marcoux Samaan. God, I'm struggling with the pronunciations tonight. Is stepping down from the role effective January 9th, 2025. A search for a new commissioner is underway, and the chief legal officer, Liz Moore, is set to replace Samaan next month as on an interim basis. And I was looking at a Sportico article just kind of highlighting a few things from her tenure. LPGA brought in a record-setting $209 million in revenue in 2023. I think all the tax returns came out this week, which we'll also get to with Steamboat Jay here in a second. And it's the first time the league has ever hit over the $200 million mark, up from $180 million in 2022. The article goes on to say, though, that they might run a deficit this year. They might be in the red by $2 or $3 million bucks. In 2023, they were in the black by about 5 million. But TC, what are your thoughts here on this LPGA transition?
Yeah, I think some of the revenue and expenses stuff is tricky because I think they more than doubled the size of their marketing and content team
Yeah.
and spent a great deal more money on that, and I'm not sure it's necessarily showing dividends. Yeah, this has kind of been, not like it's been like pretty reputable rumors for the last 3 to 6 months, and it was percolating even before Solheim Cup of just Mollie had kind of lost the locker room with a lot of the ladies, and then the whole Solheim Cup parking and shuttle debacle kind of solidified things. It felt like when Terry Duffy gave her a quote A plus plus last week or a couple weeks
The
ago.
dreaded vote of confidence,
Yeah.
TC.
And said, and then was asked, "What do you specifically like?" And he said, "Nothing. I just like the overall trajectory." That felt pretty kind of damning praise. I think some of there was a quote about from the Amundi CEO because they're pouring a bunch of money into the Evian over there, and just kind of it's like this transformational moment for women's sports at large, and the LPGA just doesn't seem to have been able to ride that wave, despite Nelly having a standout year and Lydia making the Hall of Fame and all of that, and Beth Ann Nichols, her column after the Solheim Cup or during the Solheim Cup, and then a couple columns in the months thereafter, that kind of solidified it for me. Like, I think Beth Ann's going to give you a pretty fair shake, and if you've lost Beth Ann, you've kind of you're really trying to keep your head above water. So it's a tough job. I mean, I think Juan was probably big shoes to fill there, but it just seemed like kind of a golf outsider coming into that role and not communicating effectively.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of PR losses. Just like, hey, you got to get out in front of this. Like, I mean, the Solheim stuff, it was one example, but just I over the last 3 years, I think I remember 1 or 2 press conferences, like hearing her speak. Now, anytime I've interacted with her one-on-one, like when we were at the Solheim Cup in Spain, she was lovely. And I thought like super smart, charismatic, like had good ideas. It's just like none of them ever seemed to like she wasn't selling the golf world on anything, it felt like. And so I didn't know what her platform was. I didn't really understand what what do you want to attach your name to? Like you look at like in the athletic directors, I think is in some ways a similar position to commissioners. And it's like, what's their thing? They like build stuff. Like you want to get your name, you want to get buildings built. Like that's kind of was the deal. Like when I was in college,
and I feel
or
like
hire
commissioner
coaches.
wise, that's where it's like, you want to, I think the schedule is kind of what you hang your hat on.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what you're building, and when the schedule, I think she made some progress, but when the schedule, their purse increases, they've kind of championed that as like, hey, that's her big thing, but that seemed like it was kind of that momentum was already going
That was almost
prior
led by
to
the
her coming
USGA.
in.
It felt like.
Yeah, a lot of different Chevron, a lot of the other, KPMG and the total purse in the LPGA Tour has gone up dramatically.
Yeah.
But there's something that like money can't buy of like a coherent schedule too of like travel. She got health insurance for all the players. I think that was a big W, but overall it just felt like when they lost the Cognizant
Cognizant.
sponsorship with
Yeah.
Founders a couple months ago for the upcoming season, or they can't find a title sponsor for Nelly Corda's hometown event in Bradenton or stuff like that. It's just like, all right, like that needs to be, you know, items one through 5 for you to really hone in on. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about it more this Thursday. We've got a LPGA focus kind of season end year in review podcast going out.
KVV, any thoughts?
I just feel sometimes in these situations like she didn't even seem to endear herself to the players. We heard a lot that like the players didn't really warm to her or like her or whatever. And I get it. Like you're as a commissioner, what Mike Juan was really good at was working the room, man. Like Juan is a really good politician, but also it feels like there's a genuine interest there when he talks to you. And I don't know that, it didn't seem like Mollie was able to do that. But I also think that, if you're want your league to succeed, some of that is on the players too. Like what more can the players be doing to get out there and sell their stuff, right? Like there was a big controversy where they wouldn't show up at the dinner and the sponsor was furious, whatever. Well, like, is it really that hard to get, players to come and do a little bit of like, press and flesh and glad handling with someone who's paying them millions of dollars? Like, it's not like, the ratings are booming in the LPGA. And so I do think it is important for the players to realize, like, hey man, like, you can't just show up and play and think that that's going to be the end all be all. Like, you have to, when you're in a league that you're trying to grow, you have to do a lot of extra stuff. And I'm sure they would say, well, we are doing that, but you got to do more. And that's just kind of part of the overall thing. And so I don't think the players are innocent in all this. Like, whoever takes the job over next, like, I'd love to hear some names thrown around on Thursday about who might be a possible person, but I hope that they'll get together and work with the commissioner, be like, all right, what do you need from us? Because we realize that this is not just like a you thing. This is a us thing.
I think, like, I've been critical of Lexi at pretty much every juncture over the last 10 years, but one thing you can't be critical of Lexi on is I think she's one of the ones that's like the perfect role model for doing stuff with sponsors and showing up to anything and everything that they've asked her to do, acting like an owner, they call it on the LPGA. So
yeah. TC, Mollie weighed 1.26 million in 2023, according to their tax filing. I saw another note in here. Jay Monahan made $23 million in 2023. Do you care to comment on the PGA Tour? Let's transition over to the other commissioner. How are we feeling about that payout?
Yeah, this was via Sportico as well, Daniel Libet, a couple weeks ago. So we didn't have a chance to debrief this. This was in the lead up to Thanksgiving. I think Jay, making 23 million while they're cutting headcount at the global home inside the moat, and Ron Price, the COO. Jay's
I won't hear any Ron Price bashing. He was the only adult in the room, according to me.
So like, Jay's making more than Adam Silver.
13 for Ron.
13.
Ron did show up at Congress to testify.
I know, and Ron was the only one that held his own in Congress. All right, he got left holding the bag, man.
Maybe that's the big bump.
An extra $3 million for covering the for hazard pay.
Yeah, no, I mean Ron's a kind of a part of the furniture from the Fincham years, and it's kind of the bridge between the two. But yeah, I don't know. I think executive compensation is like, you are what your shareholders, your stakeholders say you're worth, and I think if Jay made 10 or 15 million, I wouldn't even find that egregious. I think 23 million is pretty wild when you look at the size of the business and the salaries and bonuses of other sports commissioners, setting aside Roger Goodell. Because he's kind of the outlier there.
I would argue, TC, I think that, well, this is all, my conjecture, but that's basically inking the, strategic sports group money. I'm sure a lot of it's tied to like, oh, see, I got a $3 billion investment. So 23 million doesn't look, that's just a drop, but it's just a little drip in the bucket on that 3 billion. But I agree with you with all the bad publicity and just where we're in this like stagnant period with the merging the tours. It just doesn't seem like he's doing a very good job. And so this is just a tough message to send even to players. Like, man, that's not, that can't be right.
I mean, he made more than any of the players.
I know.
That's crazy.
What blows me away is, in 2021, he made about 14 million. So like, what can you point to and say, I guess, other than this strategic?
I think it's the merger. I really do. I think there's probably the merger, just like, hey, if you get this cash infusion, we're going to chip you off for like job well done.
And then also I think it's also like the TV deal. Like, he got that done, and then he took a haircut in 2020 and 2021 with, I think he deferred some salary and stuff like that. Yeah. So some of that could have been loaded in or whatever. But man, like kind of like you said, KVV, at the end of the day, who is he negotiating against? Like,
imagine what a good commissioner would have earned.
It's kind of like Mike Gundy this week in Oklahoma State. They made him take a pay cut and reduce his buyout and all that. I feel like we should be going in that direction with Jay.
He got $7 more million, and he was only asked to resign twice in interim by the players. So at least that we know of. Anyway,
I could go on forever. So Neil, keep us moving here.
Okay, gentlemen, we got a few tournaments left on the TV schedule, but it's safe to say the golf season is over for most of the U.S. That is the outdoor golf season. It is, however, Simulator SCN, and Foresight Sports has what you need for the golf simulator of your dreams. Their Sim in a Box custom GC3 simulator package is a whopping $3,500 off this week. Yeah, we got some holiday promos going on. Check out the Sim in a Box. That comes with everything you need to start playing golf in the garage or basement today. Hit the ground running next week by getting your reps in over the winter. Work on your game, play some of our favorite courses like the Cradle or Tara Edie, and maybe even earn a few bucks participating using the Pin Seeker app for close to the pin contests for cash and prizes. If you're not interested in a full simulator, it is also a great time to pick up a GC3 launch monitor, since the GC3 Essentials Plus is $1,000 off for a limited time. By now, you know that Foresight Sports is the benchmark, and they set the standard for how launch monitors and golf simulators are measured. Check out their extended holiday offers and their new ID.me military and first responders program at foresightsports.com. That's foresightsports.com. You know, TC, one thing I'll note here is I remember when we were kids and the franchise got us a pool table for Christmas. When I don't know, I was like in 4th grade when we got the pool table. Maybe I was a little younger. I almost feel like the simulators are like the new pool tables. You know, like for kids these days. Like, oh my God, it's kind of like the same deal. Anyway, let's move on. We're taking it down under, TC. Australian Open recap.
I think we pride ourselves on giving a lot of run to our friends down in Australia. They're kind of
earned run. I mean,
yeah. Earned
best golf in the world down there.
Earned eyeballs, and I think that we didn't do a recap episode last week, but we didn't want to skip over it. I think there's a few interesting wrinkles from the Australian Open, both positive and negative. And I wanted to start with the positive. KVV, one of your fellow, is it Montanans?
Montanans, yes.
Montanans, one of your fellow Montanans emerged victorious. Kind of a true
Ryggs Johnston. Do you have a good Danny Glover impression, KVV? I feel like you might in there. Ryggs.
Come on, Ryggs. Come on, Ryggs. You know we can't do that, Ryggs.
I'm too old for this shit, man.
I'm too old for this shit, man. That's how I was feeling last night when you guys were headed out to the bars, and I was like, I'm too old for this shit, boys. Listen, Ryggs Johnston, Montanans were buzzing all throughout this. Listen, we have not had a professional golfer of any good basically skills ever really come along. I mean, but Ryggs is 24. I'm going to go ahead and say he's the best golfer ever to come from the state of Montana. It's just flat out true.
What about Nick Faldo?
Yeah, that's true. The game day picker, Nick Faldo, as you know. Cody and I were kind of buzzing all throughout the weekend, locked in. My dad actually, like 3 weeks ago, had eyeballed, he'd followed Ryggs' career very closely. Ryggs grew up in Libby, Montana, which is kind of in the northwest corner of Montana. About, I would say, less than 4,000 people live in Libby. So Ryggs really the best high school player to ever come. Went to Arizona State, was a good player, but didn't really win a ton there, but could really was finished, I think, 4th at the NCAAs one of those years there, and was a pretty good player. Kind of got COVID in the middle of his career and stuff, but kind of just, didn't quite get his tour card through PGA Tour U. And so basically decided before, going and trying to go to the second stage of Q school, went over to Europe and managed to play really well in Spain over a course of 100 holes and finished and got his tour card there, and was kind of like, I don't really have a lot to do, so I think I'll, go down and play in Australia. Had never even seen the courses, couldn't even get a practice round there at Kingston Heath, and then just went out and just balled out. His girlfriend had been his caddy for all the sort of the stretch of it, and then she couldn't make the trip, I think, because of work. So her father, who had just retired, jumped on the bag, and they just it basically was like a kind of situation where he just didn't have to overthink anything. It was just like, all right, hit it here.
On a thinking man's golf course.
Absolutely. And it was just awesome. I mean, literally Cody and I and our sort of friend Cameron Milton, who is a head pro in Polson, Montana, we were kind of texting all throughout the weekend, riveted over shot after shot. I think from what I understand, text threads all over Montana were blowing up with people just locked in on Ryggs. As we were joking, earlier, it came out after the Australian Open that he was named after Mel Gibson's character Ryggs from Lethal Weapon. He saw his family had a lot of R names when they were growing up, and because he was the third boy in his family that his father was like, Ryggs is a cool name. I don't. He was like, he ran out of R's, and so he just kind of
I
go
do want to
Ryggs.
shout out. I love it when people use Y's as a
Yes.
vowel.
Mhm.
Y for I. That's good stuff.
Yes.
So Ryggs is how you spell Ryggs Johnston's name.
Yeah.
It's great stuff.
Ryggs is like a great athlete. He was a basketball player. I think he holds the state record for 3-pointers, all classes. You know, if you know anything about Class C basketball, it is the true run and gun. It is the absolute like,
Really?
what? Oh yeah, people are going to put up like 30, 35 threes a game. Like there's not
That's
a lot
awesome.
of defense being played at that level. But so he got some shots off. He was about 6'4", so he probably could have played like some small college basketball somewhere. But really, always basically his lifelong goal was to go to Arizona State, and so ended up going there and balling out. And then now he's gonna get a chance to play on the European Tour. End up kind of going to has his full card there and stuff. And
Is there a Augusta invite for the Australian Open?
No, well, you read my mind, Neil. There's not.
there's
Okay.
not, yeah.
And I think there should be a national open,
Mhm.
like especially if somebody wins the Sanderson or the Black Desert Championship or the RSM and they're getting an invite, I think whoever wins incentivize these like people to go down and play these events. Kind of like the Open Championship is done with, I think they do it with the Argentine Open, a few other ones. So
KVV were the local papers in Montana just, I mean,
Well,
got to be some
sadly,
good
Neil,
write-ups and
the local papers have been a little bit devastated by the sort of collapse of media.
sure. Local
Just much-
blogs. How about the
Or-
local blogs?
But the Hungry Horse News,
Yeah.
it's a Hungry Horse. It's a real town, as you guys know. You've been up to Northwest Montana a little bit. They did a big write up on it. The Flathead Beacon also a big write up
Sure.
on it. So my dad was sending me these clips and stuff. But just from everything I understand, I've never met him, but Ryggs is apparently just a great kid. Cameron, like Polson Pro, there was telling me that he did like a clinic in Polson, which gets a lot of kids from like the reservation and stuff, kids who've never played golf before and come. And Ryggs came down and for 2 days basically just like was awesome with like all the kids, like, spending tons of time with them. Cameron was just telling me basically like absolutely a true mensch of a dude. And so I'm super excited. I finally get a Montanan to cheer for on the, out in the PGA, out in at least in the European Tour. We'll see if he can earn his way onto the PGA Tour eventually.
I love it. So I don't know if we mentioned earlier, Australian Open was played at Kingston Heath. Near and dear to
I think
our
it was
heart.
Kingston Heath and Victoria.
Which both have been on Torah Sauce courses. Kingston Heath being the finale course of our recent season. So you can watch that on our YouTube channel. But TC, that was heartwarming stuff from KVV. But bring us home with the yang here.
I think this wasn't Riggs's fault. This wasn't anybody's fault. Hats off to the superintendents down on the Sandbelt for getting these courses ready. They got an absolute deluge of rain, pretty uncharacteristic playing conditions down there, but that doesn't excuse the fact that I think they need to put a pin in the co-ed staging of the Australian Open. At least same courses, same days. I think a lot of pros have been very vociferous about it. I know Cam Smith has, and it's just the setup is not.
Explain to me the issue with the co-ed like schedule or setup.
Yeah,
is
so
it because it's a pace of play issue, or is it confusing
kind of
for
all
fans?
the above? It's a smaller field on each side because you got to
Okay.
fold two full things in, and then just from a course setup standpoint, men and women play two very different games, right? And especially on really, really firm greens with bunkers cut into them and all of that. Like the defense of a place like Kingston Heath, when it's firm and fast, is hole locations and firmness. And I think over the last few years, Golf Australia, who's the governing body down there, I think of the whole country except for New South Wales, like it's gotten really, really dysfunctional. And Australians are like, they're to the point where this James Sutherland guy is basically, they're like, yeah, this is like our Jay Monahan. Like it's like Jay Monahan and like Mike Davis put together. And they hate him. The telecast, like the broadcast has been awful. A lot of the men have been complaining just that the course setup isn't challenging them or drawing out the right skills. It's like, hey, if we're going to have this on the Sandbelt, it needs to play like a Sandbelt golf course. And then the attendance figures are way down the last couple of times they've had it in Melbourne. So I know New South Wales, like when it's up there, they put it on, and it's it's been awesome. Or like I think the New South Wales Open, when they've done that, it's been really, really well run, and the increasingly so. It sounds like the Golf Australia, like they're getting so much feedback from at least the people. Maybe I'm in an echo chamber of like the people that we've met over the last 5 years or 6 years or 7 years since we first went down there, and many of whom have become really good friends. But they're to a man, to a woman, they're all just uber critical of Golf Australia. Is the purse has gotten smaller and smaller, not kept up with anything. The commercial sponsorship stink. They're just not doing their job at all. So part of it is we just need to tell it like it is, and hey, it's doing a disservice to the ladies, because the ladies, it's better to have them playing it in February when it's, kind of that's part of the season. And then for the men, like it just doesn't make sense. Everybody's giving up stuff without actually getting any benefit having them co-ed at the same time. So
And
there's my
Casey,
soapbox.
I know it cuts close to you with how big of a supporter you are of national opens.
Exactly.
I know
And
that's
Australia, it's like the Venn diagram of like
Indeed.
this is right in the middle of what's important to me.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I was like should have been, but I was quite surprised that 200,000 was the winning like thing. I mean, in golf, that's pretty paltry these days. And I know Australia's been through a difficult time with a lot of natural disasters in the last few years, and their economy wasn't great. And so obviously, like I think on a podcast a year ago, I was kind of like, hey, I mean, you want people to come down there, like you got to put up a purse that's going to entice them in some ways, and then we'll be happy to be critical of the players. I mean, and just recently it said like Rory needs to get his butt down there and play it again if he's going to talk about the importance of it, importance of
well, yeah,
golf.
but you
And
also look at the Australian Open from a tennis standpoint. Like
yeah,
I know it's different league, but in some ways it shouldn't be. It's like clearly there's a market for like a tennis purse that's, every top tennis player is getting on a plane to go down there. Obviously, I know it's one of the four majors, but there's no reason that the Australian Open can't be on this should be an elevated event if it's going to carry that
Yep.
name. When you say a national open name, it has to feel bigger, especially it feels big in Ireland. It feels big in Scotland. It feels big in Canada. Like these are the golf playing countries.
Yeah.
Australia's right there with them. It is a bummer that it's, a bit of an afterthought.
John Huggan had a big article about it, kind of making the Australian Open great again. He had some quotes from Kari Webb about how, it's no longer an LPGA event. That's hurt it drastically. Be better in February than it is in December for them. And then, Adam Scott, pretty level-headed, thoughtful guy, right? Like
Sure.
one of the classier guys. He's like, the format isn't ideal for the men or the women, and the two-cut thing didn't work. Could have been 32nd on Sunday and not even playing in your national open. I don't care if you're Cam Smith or a 16-year-old hotshot. You don't want to be sitting out on Sunday. I would have been gutted if that was me. Overall, though, there's a place for different formats, but your national open is not the place for that, which I think is bang on.
I think
Like
it's
they do
very
the
fair
Victoria
point.
Open down there, and that's a co-ed, all
Yeah.
sorts of, and that's all, that's awesome. And Clates and Ogilvy do their thing, and I think that's bang on from Adam Scott. Like there's all sorts of room to do. I mean, shit, let's do something at the Hero, right? Like,
Yeah.
but not at the Australian Open, especially when they're trying to market themselves as a prestigious historic golf tournament.
I think
So,
the history thing, Neil, with the Open in tennis is an important part of like they may not want to go all the way down there and always complain about the jet lag and all that stuff, but if you want to be weighed in history, you're going to
You
go to the
gotta
majors,
go.
right? And so
I
that's
know
where I
it's not
think
an
like
apples to apples comparison, but I
no,
was using that when you talk about the purse size. There's money down there for a purse. It's just we're not doing a good job of selling it to somebody and being like, this is worthy of you
sure.
sponsoring. Clearly,
Well, that's where I think the Masters could really help and just say, like, you know what, it is. You do get a entry into the Masters with this, and the Masters could do global good there. I mean, they've always kind of had that. One of the reasons that Joaquin Niemann got a chance to go to the Masters last year was because he won the Australian Open. It was like factored into the decision to
so
invite him. So
we'll see if Ryggs Johnston. I mean, maybe they do the same thing. Like I don't. They don't really publish their criteria, but
for sure,
and I think it's one of those things too. Like, all right, if the state of Victoria, it should probably pop over around the country more, right? Like I know they're getting ready to reopen Royal Sydney. here in the coming years. Get it out west. Get it back to Adelaide. Like it seems like there's plenty of enthusiasm there, and some of these state governments down there are paying for. They're underpinning the purse,
Mhm.
and if they only have to do that one every 5 years or 6 years, that's good
Yeah,
for
you could
everybody.
consolidate the funds.
So I might hop on with Malika and Scott on their Australian Golf Passport podcast and just get them all riled up about it.
Please
Love
report
it.
back if
Yeah.
you do, TC.
All right. Well, want to give a shout out to another partner, the Stack. The Stack is the complete system for biohacking your club head speed, gentlemen. You've both heard Solly, specifically Solly, and DJ are swearing by this thing, this golf training system. And if you haven't heard it already, I'd go back and listen to Solly's conversation, the Stack founder, Dr. Sasho McKenzie. It seems to be extremely impactful. I have not started my speed training yet. I've been working through my my TPI stuff and my mobility stuff, but it is going to be on my goals list next year. Not so much to chase speed, TC, but to just so that you can cruise a little bit higher and almost feels like it's just a good golf workout. So I don't know. You were down with DJ playing some golf last week. Did you see any
Yeah.
speed differences?
Yeah, much like you, I have not started my off-season program yet. I'll be doing that, starting in about 8 days. So I'll report back on that. But I saw the results of DJ's thus far. I felt like I was watching a different golfer. I didn't play with him. I just warmed up next to him. He's like, "Yo, TC, check this out." I mean, the ball was coming out of a radically different window. He's driving it 15 past me. Truly shocking, terrifying, and ultimately frustrating. I'm like, all right, I gotta get my ass in gear.
Well, as people will learn in a couple of weeks from Tron's TPI video, we need to get him to disassociate the core and the hips if we're gonna chase down DJ's newfound
The stack may not
distance
even
and
work
speed.
if you can't disassociate anything, right?
Mm.
Yeah, you might have to do the mobility stuff before you do the
It's a
stack.
phased program for
Yeah.
me.
KVV, any experience with the stack?
I've been doing stack a little bit. I haven't really been as good as keeping up with it, but I am up 3 to 4 miles an hour in the initial doing it, which is, in theory, 10 yards longer. I'm still, I'm a little bit perplexed about whether I should, be trying to get lessons during this break so that I can just stop swinging the stack over the top really hard. But I don't know if that's going to help me in the long run, but on the radar system right now, I'm up a little bit. So let's put a pin in that right now, and we'll circle back come January, February, because I think I'm finally going to get some lessons. I think my wife is going to give me some lessons for my birthday here.
I love it.
Yeah.
Lessons,
Little
customized
more
golf
training
balls from
aids.
Titleist, lots of options. All right, thestacksystem.com/no laying up. There's a code no laying up for 10% off the stack. And also, Nest members get 20% off the stack system via a code in your member profile. So go to nolayingup.com/profile and you will find a code for 20% off the stack system in your discount section. That code is good through December 31st of 2024. So go use it if you're looking to do some off-season grinding like TC is. Gentlemen, it's time for the E9. KVV, turning it over to you. What do you got for us? Take us through
All
it.
right,
9
boys.
holes.
We might need some E9 theme music. Let's
Yeah,
think
that's a
about
good
that in the
idea.
future.
I'm gonna write. I'll write that down.
Thank you.
Or rename the E9 too, because
True.
as I understand it, our friends at Subpar, they do an E9 thing.
Oh,
There's
do
just
they?
not that many pithy,
Yeah.
golfy
Oh,
stuff.
that happened to me. I did a mystery box thing with the pro shop, promos where I was like, I'm just gonna pick a random order and send them a pick out and send them another order of stuff that I picked for them. Like, oh, Ryggs does that over at foreplay. It's like, I don't pay attention. I didn't know. I'm not trying to copy anybody.
There's nothing new under the sun.
There's nothing new out there. So yeah, E9 for now, but music and a new name coming
Also,
soon.
if you are the kind of person who polices that kind of stuff, you're a big fucking dork. Just move right
you.
along.
Thank you.
One of my friends says maybe we should call it the Twilight Nine. So we're open to any and all things if you're out there listening. All right, let's kick it off here with the down at the Hero World Challenge before the golf, guys. There was a time when Tiger Woods taking the mic would have led this show, would have sent shockwaves throughout the golf world. But I think that time is kind of sunsetting a bit. Tiger talked a little bit about how his back is just not quite ready to compete just yet. Says as far as the recovery process going out there and doing it again and again and again, at a consistently high level. For some reason, my body just won't recover like it used to. That's part of age and part of the journey. I didn't think my back was going to go like it did this year. He had thought where he was going to play once a month. It was quite painful throughout the end of the year, and hence I had another procedure to alleviate the pain I had going down my leg. And so, what are my commitments going forward? Is it once a month? Yeah, I could say that all over again, but I truly don't know. I'm just trying to rehab and still get stronger and better and feel better and really give myself the best chance I can going into next year. He has not ruled out playing in the Hero World Challenge with Charlie. TC and Neil, I turn it to you.
Wait,
the
you know the
PNC.
PNC.
Excuse me,
People
the
would lose their
PNC.
minds if Tiger played in or if Charlie played in the Hero World Challenge and got world ranking points.
You know Charlie's going to play in the Hero World Challenge at some point. Or no, I messed up my NC sort of combination of letters there. Boys, what should we think about Tiger in this moment? Is it still news that Tiger says that he's sort of hopeful and looking ready to compete in the year to come?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's business as usual. I mean, guys, his body's broken. So, but I have no issue with him using every single exemption that he earned over the last 25, 30 years, whatever it is. Going back to like what Monty said about him at the Open, it's like, no, he can play as long as he wants. I don't care if he doesn't compete. Like, it's still, because if he does find it, over the next 3 or 4 years and he, lightning in a bottle and he does, make the cut and he's on the first 2 pages of the leaderboard, that'll be a ton of fun. So I'm happy with whatever we get from Tiger. Truly. Like I would like to see him tee it up. I don't know if I need to see him tee it up once a month. I kind of just need to see him tee it up in the majors, to be honest with you. Majors and maybe pick, if he wants to play at Riv or something, but pick your spots, man. I don't that's totally fine with me. Less is more, I think, at this point.
He didn't play enough, or it's like, hey, figure out which courses you want to play on too. Like whether it's like I know TGL, he said, hey, I'm not ready for it yet, but I think I can get there. Which who knows how demanding the axe, the temple,
the temple hole could be brutal getting up those steps. There.
But I think Tiger too, even if he's not playing, I'd like to just see him out there and involved a little bit of like, hey, pop in and hang out on the range or something.
Out there with the guys. I just like being out with the guys.
Yeah, exactly. Boys. I'm just out with the boys.
But I also think that he's probably the type of person that hates being out there if he's not competing.
Yeah,
that's probably like I would think that would drive him nuts. Probably just doesn't want to be around if he's not going to be playing.
And he was wearing it's clear he's been doing some fishing because he was wearing the biggest
goggles,
set of Costa Del Mar fishing glasses I've ever seen. Just hater blockers.
My only comment is I kind of wish we could just sort of stop asking him like, oh, do you think you can win? Oh, I wouldn't be out here if I didn't think I could win. Like, yeah. I think we've done that dance several times. Yours truly has written multiple columns about that. I think we all kind of know that Tiger deep down, like, probably still thinks he has one more good sort of flash in him.
Yeah.
But that's going to come more as a surprise than it is going to come as any sort of like, oh, Tiger, can you win Riviera this week? Like, probably not. Like, it's probably going to go to one of the.
It's going to be a lot more what we saw at, Valhalla and Pinehurst than it is like.
You should play Harbor Town.
Yeah.
It's the perfect course for him now.
Hitting little, 3 irons off the tee. And
it would be sick if he just picked a tournament a year, didn't tell anybody he was playing and kind of just, yeah.
That was one of my favorite things when he did that with
John
like
Deere, whatever.
Greensboro, right? Like he showed up at Greensboro or Greenbrier and like that was great.
Yeah. All right. That's evidence that he is no longer quite the straw that stirs the drink. We will move on from the cat. Item number 2, the bake-off is over at NBC. Our friends at NBC have chosen Kevin Kisner to be their color commentator for majors and Ryder Cup coverage. Ain't no hobby no more. Kevin Kisner will be a full-time gig for him, although he will play some. Says he wants
the golf sounds like it is turning into a hobby.
Yeah, that's true.
He's going to play part-time.
Life comes first fast for us all, TC. He wants to play part of the schedule and will rotate analyst when he is competing. Neil, are you bullish or bearish on Kevin Kisner?
I think I'm bullish. I think he did a good job last year. I think the fact that he didn't have to go week to week helped him a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if I get sick of him if I hear him every week. But overall, I thought he did a good job. I didn't think he was trying to pretend to be an analyst. I thought he was himself. I thought he offered good commentary. but yeah, I mean, it's a safe pick from NBC. Like it's kind of like obvious. Like, why'd you guys take so long? Like he was the best candidate you had all year. Haven't heard any new names, lobbed in or I don't think they should pick Brandel to do it. So it was basically between him and Brandel was kind of what it came down to. So yeah, this is the right choice. I don't know if I'm not like fired up about it, but I would say bullish more than bearish.
I think in hindsight, probably the doing it sporadically both helped him because it kept him fresh, but also probably hurt him because you're not just diving in head first and able to kind of find your voice or feel like you have job security to really really put yourself out there. But I do wonder, hey, if he's going to be out there playing a lot, is he going to kind of soft step certain things or not want to piss certain guys off? Like I know he had kind of his fiery take about the PGA Tour becoming a closed shop, and then and then he replied to that same post and he was like, "Yo, I'm just asking the question. Like I don't care how it ends up.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting, you know."
Well, the fiery take stuff is the kind of thing that I think, worries me the most, so that he won't actually be honest because he's out there, wanting to still be buds with the people. I think, I almost wonder in retrospect if we don't appreciate Johnny Miller enough because he just truly did not care about being friends with these guys. And that's what made him such an honest, broker of the commentary out there, and wish we could get someone who would do that similarly.
I
Hundred
think
percent.
Johnny, yeah, I don't think we realized quite what we had when Johnny was at the peak of his powers until it was too late. And I think with Johnny too, he gets reduced in hindsight to like a hot take guy.
Hmm.
When really I think he was kind of all of the above, right? He could dish the hot takes. He was really, really quick on his feet of telling, hey, here's what this guy's probably thinking right now, or predicting certain things in a non-annoying way of like, oh, not like a Romo way where like Romo's like, trying to predict the next 4 play calls.
Hmm.
Johnny's like, oh, like watch out for this kind of thing. I think he was really well balanced as he got into his prime.
One thing that I've learned doing these major deep dives with Sully is like Johnny knew really like what was asked of in the player in the moment. He got like it became one note in the sort of sense of like people thought, oh, all he ever talks about is like, this is gonna be a choke, or this is, this sucks. But he knew like, hey, you got to hit this putt's going this way, or this is what this shot requires. And he was very good at golf and could translate that to the screen.
One thing on the last thing I'll say is the announcer, Kisner or whoever, that's not the issue. We can't have 4 guys in the booth in 2025. So if I just Kisner and Hicks, like let's just stick with 2. That's all I'm asking for. Just get no too many cooks, guys. Too many cooks.
Didn't Monday Night Football try it when they brought Dennis Miller in, and it was
Yes, it
kind of a
doesn't work,
disaster? They
man.
tried to have a 4-man booth for a year. It
Is that
was
a 4
just,
man or a 3 man?
I think it was a 4-man after Miller was kind of a disaster for a year. If I'm remembering that right. I mean,
It was definitely
they
a
had
3-man
Miller. Okay.
with Miller, but I don't know.
maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I thought
God,
maybe
Miller was great, man. Like in hindsight,
yeah, babe.
he would
All
have
right.
been made for the social media era, you know?
All right, item number 3, something that would certainly interest Dennis Miller these days. The USGA and the LPGA have announced a new gender policy. The overview of the policy is under new gender policies announced Wednesday, the players must either be assigned to be female at birth or have transitioned to female prior to undergoing male puberty to be eligible for LPGA tournaments or 8 USGA Golf Association championships designated for female competitors. This is set to take effect in 2025. And the policies are the result of more than a year of research encompassing medicine, sports science, physiology, and gender policy law. Mike Wan, the USGA's head, said that it starts with competitive fairness as our North Star. We've tried not to get into politics or state by state or any of that stuff. We just simply said, where would somebody, at least medically today, where do we believe somebody would have a competitive advantage in the field? And we needed to draw the line. Guys here, any thoughts on this, TC? I know this is something that we've talked a little bit about, but haven't really talked a bunch about on the show here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see the USGA coming out with it and then the LPGA kind of piggybacking and using them as kind of a shield and saying, yeah, we're just going to go along with what the USGA says. Like I know Juan basically said, hey, we were hoping to get something from the Olympics. They didn't step up to the plate. They left it up to all the individual sports. We were hoping to get something federal. That hasn't happened. So to me, it's like common sense. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's a hot button thing, and I'm sure there's people out there that disagree with me, but I think objectively speaking, like, is it an advantage to be born a male and be able to hit the ball farther or have, like there's just physical differences, right?
Sure.
And that's it's pretty cut and dry from where I sit.
I read that like that's just this seems very rational to me,
Mhm.
and I appreciate Juan like saying like, yeah, we need to draw a line, and it's
Yeah.
like you look at golf with all the distance stuff. It's like nobody's been willing to draw a line. Everybody kind of avoids the line drawing, and it's like, well, that's what you got to do as a commissioner, and it's just kind of we were talking about the LPGA commissioner like transition. I think that's probably a reason there is a transition right now because lines aren't being drawn. Like you gotta govern. You gotta be like, no, we gotta at least make a policy. Doesn't mean they couldn't change it, but I'm with TC. I think this makes sense, and it seems like it's well thought out. Like it's not a full ban. It's not trying to be hot like a hot button thing. It's just like no, we're gonna this is where we're going to draw the line. And I think Juan is always good at kind of bottom lining stuff. So I appreciate that.
The important thing I think is that they sort of used medicine and like
Yeah.
sports science and physiology, and they looked at that. I think that from my perspective, like, and a lot of people wanted to predict how I was going to sort of react on this based on what they think my politics are. But like, I think that if you can be very supportive of, rights for trans people and still like want to sort of set up certain, guidelines in sports. Like there is no
Yeah.
connection in my sense of like the two. I want trans people to live healthy, happy lives. I want them to have the same rights as other people, whether it comes to voting or bathroom stuff. And I can still sort of say, like, essentially, what are sports, right? At some level, you can make the case to me that, hey, like sports in high school or sports at the sort of lower level, that's about like inclusiveness and making sure everyone feels involved. But eventually, when we get to the level of like professional sports, we're sort of deciding like who is the best person amongst this set of standards. And the one flip side of this, I guess I will just kind of raise this as the devil's advocate point. Is there a lot of people who are saying that, because of the rules saying, you have to have transitioned from female to male, before undergoing puberty, a lot of the states are basically outlawing that and say that that's not going to, be allowed. And we can debate, not certainly on this show, but like whether that's, a medical reason or a political reason or whatever. But they're sort of basically saying that these kids will never have that chance to get to sort of compete in golf. I just think that the percentage of this being such an issue is such a small thing. Like I'm
For
totally
sure.
fine with like drawing these lines here. It's when people kind of like try to make it into such like their whole entire personality, that they're going to sort of raise
Yeah.
money off this and get famous off this. And just like these people don't care about women's golf. They don't have any interest in actually protecting the game. They're just trying to sort of use this as a political issue and whatever. So I totally agree. These are the right rules, the right way to sort of move forward with it. And I just think that like now we can kind of move on and we can sort of feel like, all right, like, let's be inclusive in society, but let's also like set standards for what sports are.
And it's, I think the smart thing that Juan and the USGA did was like, hey, instead of waiting until there's Haley Davidson, she's a transgender golfer. She got through, I think, first stage or second stage of Epson Tour Q school and all of that. And I think instead of just letting that snowball down the hill and turn into this crazy hot button thing, and then like you said, KVV, invite all these people from outside of the golf who don't give two shits about what we're actually talking about here, and they just want to. It's like the fringes on either side of society. It's like, hey, no, let's make this decision as golfers
Mm-hmm.
before it comes to that, right?
Indeed. All right, number 4, the old course reversed is coming back for a second consecutive year. TCU got to participate in this, and so someone along the line will get to participate in this just as you did. It's April 3rd through the 8th in 2025. We like this. We think it's a good thing to continue to sort of this tradition of playing the old course. You actually even wrote about this as well for the Eddie magazine. What are your thoughts here?
I think it's a great thing. I think it's one of the coolest experiences of my entire life. I would encourage everyone to sign up, enter the lottery for it. It's a 3-day thing. I think you get the castle course, and then you get the the regular routing of the old course, and then the reverse routing. Hopefully, your weather is better than what we had this year, and it'll put your brain in a pretzel a little bit. So I would beg to play it again, but I would also beg for you guys to be able to play it. So
I don't know if you're allowed to play the old course inverse twice before I get to play it forward once, but we can take that offline. I think. Also, people were a little fired up in our sort of planning a trip to Scotland thing about Carnoustie being left out of Tier 1 for Fife.
yeah.
TC, again, I'll turn this to you since you were sort of head of in charge of a lot of that. What are your thoughts there? How can you defend your positions?
Yeah, so Solly kind of came up with these tiers, which
Mhm.
I'm not a big tier guy. I'm just like, hey, I like what I like kind of thing. But he's like, hey, tier one is like not to be missed kind of thing. And by definition, like I've been to St. Andrews probably 6 times now. I've been to Carnoustie 2 of those times when I've
Mhm.
been to that area of the country. And so by definition, like when I go over to Scotland, I think Carnoustie is a great golf course.
Mhm.
Do I want to go out and play a championship test with it's very, very difficult, not the most scenic, and just kind of they do a really nice job up at Carnoustie, but it's definitely kind of a tourist factory up there and a little bit impersonal with the hotel and all of that stuff. So I think I would rather go play Ely. I would rather go play Dunbar,
Mhm.
places like that. Dunbar's not in Fife, but
Sure.
I don't know. I just think my reasons for going like, hey, this is what I like. This is my tier one,
Sure.
right?
Go play Panmure.
Yeah,
Play.
exactly.
Play something that's
I like weird shit. I'm much more keen on like, hey, I want to go play other courses. Like next time over, I want to go play Lady Bank. I
Mhm.
think, but it's just, hey, it's like we're not doing a ranking. This is like a personal opinion kind
Yeah.
of thing, and so it got reduced down to, I can't believe these guys. It was like the worst of social
No,
media. I
no
can't believe
old
these
head.
guys. Yeah, yeah, basically. I think the no old head thing was much more like that
Yeah.
was me putting my stake in the ground of like, I think that place is worthless. This wasn't a slight on Carnoustie. It's
Yeah.
more just like, hey, that's not why I love links golf kind of thing.
I think Carney's
So
is a little nervous about their spot in the like the sort of overall feelings of things. The hotel situation there is
yeah.
in flux, and they're just kind of a little bit. They don't want to lose their status, and
I
perhaps
loved Carnoustie, but I like TC. I do not have the perspective and experience. I've only been once to play golf, but I would highly recommend Carnoustie as a novice Scottish golfer.
Yeah. It's like I live 2 miles from TPC Sawgrass. Like I play there maybe once a year, if that.
Mhm.
And like that, that would be the tier one golf course, going by the rankings here in Northeast Florida. But like I don't need to go ski double black diamonds every day of my ski trip. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like I just want to go chill and hang out and relax and have a nice leisurely walk. So
All right, item number 5. The New York Times this week wrote about the golf simulators are booming in New York
They are.
City, Neil. All the fancy cheese shops and all the artisanal mayonnaise places are disappearing, and golf simulators are popping up right and left. I believe we even had someone email us, Neil, and give you a free membership to one offered, and
No,
really,
you didn't
no,
take it. You didn't
no.
take it, but it was very
Well,
nice
I
of him to
do belong
offer.
to one of the ones that was called out in there, but I pay my way. It's the Gowanus Golf Club.
That's very
The
respectable
issue
of
for
you.
me has been there hasn't been one that opened very close to my apartment. And I'm a big fan of 5 iron. I think they do a really good job and they're always packed. And so this article, the piece was a little sarcastic about, it wasn't the best piece.
The Times sarcastic about something that they think is beneath them.
I don't know. It kind of became a little bit the point piece was almost pointless to me. I'm like, but it was trying to argue that like New York's, becoming for rich people. It's like, well, that's kind of been the case for a while,
You think
author.
so? Yeah.
So do I think it's going to last though? Yes, I do. I think especially, and I've said this on this here podcast, when you compare these simulators and the business model and the, what it takes to build out a 5 iron, probably a, $1 to $2 million versus a Top Golf of 30,
Mhm.
$30 million. There is definitely a business here. And it's a great, honestly, in practicing for some of the competitive stuff I did this year, the simulator was like really, really, really valuable for me. Now I'll always want to go play real golf. And the thing is, it's still expensive. So you kind of get, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but like, you go, if you want to go to 5 iron, hit balls and watch some football, like you're gonna walk out of it, you're like, whoa, man, look at the bill. It's like not cheap.
can you go in there and grind, or is it just like social stuff?
So 5 iron is much more social, but it depends on what time of day you go. Because when
Yeah.
I've gone there during the day, it's just people grinding. really hard. And then the place I'm a member at, it's like there's no bar or food. It's just like I got a key fob, and so you just reserve it, and it's just like the dojo. Like I'm in there doing my TPI workout, and then I'm hitting a bunch of I'm doing like drills on the simulator, like trying to do like wedge work and stuff. That's what I'm looking for is like I'm not looking for a happy hour spot. I'm looking for a place to practice. That's my biggest issue. With New York, it's very hard to practice. It's because you can make the trip to go play golf, and there's a lot of good golf around that's worth a day driving there and back. But what gets left out living here is practice. And so I think these simulators are starting to pop up because there is a need for it. There's a lot of people that are like, God, I really want to just hit balls right now. So
talking about practice.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Practice, man. Watch this space for further updates on New York City golf as we are working on some things in the background. So that item number 6, guys, Noling Up was announced as joining the Creator Council by the PGA Tour this week. This caused a bit of a kerfuffle on social media. TC, I'm going to turn this to you as the sort of coordinator of kerfuffles when it comes to us. Why did we decide to join the Creator Council? What did it mean? Are we dick riders? Is this the end of NLU as an independent voice as we know it? What say you?
They're paying us hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on this council. No, I think people, Neil, I'll let you kind of.
Oh God! All right, it's my favorite. People, it's because people don't understand. They act like that there's going to be some like in-person summit with all of these creators that were out. It's like, no, hopped on a phone call. They're just asking for feedback. There's a new CMO at the tour. They've got this fan forward. They're trying to solicit feedback from the audience. Are we a little like, okay, does it elicit like, are you going to do anything with the feedback? Like am I a little cynical?
You really wanted to send out a press release?
Sure, I'm cynical. About it, but I'm still like, you know what? That's a bad attitude. Like at the end of the day, I want to help. Like we have ideas for the tour, ways that you could make it easier for us to cover the game, which hopefully will help, grow the PGA Tour's audience. Hopefully that's a win-win for everybody. And just things that like we say on this podcast, like, so I think we all agreed that we did not want to, we want to be critical, like authentically critical, not just critical, chucking them from the cheap seats. And so it's like, yeah, if you want my feedback, I'll hop on a phone call with you. I'd be happy to do that. Now, I don't know if anything's going to happen from it. We're not getting paid for it. It's very low stakes. Of course, one of our first recommendations, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't put out a press release until there's actual action items or change. It was like, nah, we're definitely putting out a press release. And so we didn't know when the press release is going out. Of course, they it goes out across, blasted across all platforms. We don't even know it's coming. And it's like, it looks like a bigger deal than it is. Let me put it that way. It's more just like, hey, yeah, I appreciate that they are asking us for feedback. I don't feel like it doesn't mean we're not going to be critical. There's no we're not trading access for good PR or anything like that. So that's my take on it.
We're still calling him Steamboat Jay.
Yeah.
If you want to know the truth, right now our participation is limited to DJ being like, hey, what's the deal with using players in videos? Do we have to get your permission or not?
Could you just make a clear policy on that? Because we feel like we're following the rules and some other people aren't. Should we not do that? Or hey, could we get access to more stats like the MLB has, more data golf type stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I said was it's easier for us to cover PGA Tour golf from home, which is kind of a knock on the tour. It's like, no, you should want the media to go to your events. You should make it easier for me to the being on site should provide more value than it currently does. And I don't, I'd have to get more specific about what kind of value do you want? It's I don't know, but right now it's just easier to watch it on TV because being there, I'm not really getting anything extra.
Well, Neil, I'll give you a great example. It's if I wanted to go to a tournament and I hadn't covered them before, they would be like, well, what are you working on while you're here? I'm like, oh, well, I might be working on long form stories. I might be working on a long form thing. They would want more well, can you cover the actual tournament? Well, I might if something interesting arises, but I went to a lot of NFL games and I didn't have to show them my work, what I was doing in the turnaround. You should be pretty excited that some,
I know it's they act like they're doing you a favor. It's and what are you shooting out there? I don't know. I'm just getting some freaking Instagram pictures to make it look like it's people are having fun out here, basically.
Or check it out. Our main quote unquote product is hopping on every Sunday night talking about golf for 90 minutes.
Yep.
Like, I would think you would want us to be as clued in and personally experienced at your events as possible, right?
So, anyway, it's been in years past. It's been, the funny thing is when we get called D riders, it's been pretty hostile with us in the tour over the years.
For sure.
Things have thawed a little bit, and now they're asking. I think they're genuinely asking for feedback from a diverse amount of creators, and it's like, great. If you would, I'm happy to give you my opinion. The jury is still out on if anything happens with that opinion, and I think history would tell me, like, don't hold my breath. But let's see what happens.
All right, that puts a wrap on that. Item number 7. Let's talk a little live golf here, since we're such D riders. TC, the live gang basically is announcing a new CEO is
Yeah.
going to take over for Greg Norman, despite Greg saying he was going to be in that position basically until he had to be dragged out of it. Scott O'Neill, the former 76ers executive, overseer of the process,
I guess overseer of the overseers.
overseer. That is correct.
What, Harris Blitzer?
Executive producer of the
Entertainment.
process. Didn't direct the
Yeah.
process, but he had a hand in producing it.
Yeah, he certainly
Yeah.
signed off on the
Yeah.
process, which is an interesting, look for Liv. Is like they've similarly been losing massive amounts of money for 4 years, and now I've seen a couple kind of hints, that is this a make or break year for Liv? I don't know if break is the right word, but basically is Liv going to grow, or are they just going to kind of be what they are? TC, what do we think about Greg Norman maybe stepping aside, whether he wants to or not, and handing over the reins to someone else, maybe a bit more professional and about they're going about their business?
It sounds like we're gonna get a deal in the next 3 to 6 months. Like, everybody you talk to is like, hey, there's gonna be a deal this spring, basically. And I think that was a key concession point from the PIF side. And PIF has been negotiating the deal, not Live.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a key distinction too, as well. But I think there does seem to be, Yasser or excuse me, HE, because we're
Andrew
dick
Waterman.
riders, we have to,
Yes.
refer to him by his proper nomenclature. HE and the gang, they've seemed intent on continuing to build their revenue kind of model and their personnel on that front. So I think this is the second or third former 76ers employee that they've hired. So that'll be interesting. In other news, KVV, Big Tone,
Yes.
the oft rumored Big Tone, not leaving.
Not leaving. Yes. You broke that news amongst our Slack, at least. He's oh my gosh, he's not leaving despite what TikTok might have been telling you.
Which a Big Tone and his wife put out a banger of a reel on TikTok and in the gram, basically grilling out, and he said, I'm not leaving, I'm happy.
I'm fucking leaving.
Yeah, I think they got a stiff arm from this really highly touted European amateur as well. He said he's not going. And then this is kind of Live adjacent, but Adrian Otagwe, former, for I believe first year of Live, he's now a citizen of the United Arab Emirates, and he's hoping to compete for them in the Olympics. It's kind of a la Rory Sabatini with his beloved Slovakia. So I had the question in here: who is the funniest change of citizenry possibility out there?
Oh, I mean, Rory could become an American. That would be really funny.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know why this is not golf related, but always Mike Piazza playing for Italy in the Olympics baseball when the baseball is first again, the Italians are very excited about that possibility. God, great question. Nothing pops to mind.
Yeah, nothing jumps out at me.
Yeah, my thought is like a.
I mean, I guess Tiger, Coblin Asian or some playing for on his mom from Thailand, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But also had some Filipino, right? Too. I think
some American.
So yeah,
Indian.
I think Tiger would be funny. I decided to take my talents to the Philippines.
Tiger should just be a citizen of the world from now on. He should
plays under no banner.
I think he would love that for tax purposes. Right?
I think he would. Of international waters.
Yeah, I don't know who mine would be. I think it would be posthumously giving Sevi American citizenship or something.
Okay.
After all that stuff, or Monty becoming a U.S. citizen.
All right,
He
let's
just
keep
loves
it.
our national park
Let's keep
so
it moving.
much.
We're dragging here. The
All
E9
right.
We are
pace of play
dragging a
is
little bit.
slow. Come
Yeah,
on,
I threw
JV.
bring
us home.
not a whole
You're
lot
right,
on the
you're right.
TGL
Okay.
corner today.
Yeah. We can,
Other than guys, the screen is huge. I don't know if you've seen the stuff that they've been
it
putting
is
out.
huge. It
Yeah,
will
but it's
fit.
like I don't
Basically,
know.
will it
Some of
fit TC?
some of the
Everything will
camera
fit.
angles look. It kind of looks stupid. I don't know. It's gonna be. I'm gonna withhold judgment. I just want to watch it. I
I'm
don't
going
want
down
anyone
for
to
the
tell me
media
it's
day in like
cool.
2 weeks. So
I just want to see it. I don't want to talk about it until it actually happens at this point.
yeah.
Okay.
New York Golf Club. They hopped on Jimmy Fallon.
They did.
You know, just a very lighthearted thing. And then I'll be going out to the or I'm not going out to it, but I thought about it to the Vegas, the crypto.com,
Showdown.
match thing,
Yes.
showdown, whatever we're calling it. Not the match.
TC,
Showdown.
I thought about it too, but I can't swing it. It's been a long. Honestly, it's been a long year, and I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't make it work.
Putting these events like right before Christmas is tough on
It's
the
just like,
families of golf
Mr.
journalists, content
Biggs,
creators. Yeah, don't
Mr.
appreciate
Biggs'
it.
wedding was kind of like I'm putting a period on it, man. Sticking around here for the holidays.
TCU in number 8 here, we have a weekly Ryder Cup kind of discussion. I know that you had some
Yeah.
thoughts here. Mainly the PGA of America extending with Delaware North through 20.
Yeah, Neil's guy, Governor Hochul, her people
husband.
there. Yeah, I think they own. Do they own the Boston Bruins too?
I don't know. They're kind of like a sneaky, influential
Delaware
shop.
North.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, they're re-upping. This is on the wake of gestures wildly at everything that happened with the ticketing fiasco and all of that. Pay for play. There was a lot of the chatter down there. It was pay for play stuff with, I think Scottie pretty eloquently addressed a lot of those questions and stuff. And then, did you guys get a chance to watch the DP World Tour's Ryder Cup European team documentary yet?
I am watching it with my daughter this weekend. That is on my list of musts. So I'll report back soon.
Very good.
All right.
Great
Of course,
interview that you guys
TC for hole number 9, TC just literally in the agenda says dumping this stuff in for placeholders / parking. You got to pick one of these, TC. Bryson going nuclear, Joel Beal's piece on Grayson Murray, personal golf stuff. Where do you want to go with this? You got to pick one though, because we got to keep moving.
Let's see. Yeah, there was the murder at the North Palm Beach Country Club. Caitlin Clark had 15 clubs in her bag. Yeah. TNT ran an ad for the match 5 days after the fact. I didn't even know there was a match.
I'll see. He's a Trojan horse. He's doing all of them.
If I had to just pick one, and listen, congrats to Bryson on getting the hole-in-one over his house. That was like genuinely impressive. But DJ sent this along there. It's from the Costas and McCord podcast. Peter Costas from golf.com's Instagram account. Peter Costas is wearing a Costas and McCord hat, mesh, side of the hat is mesh in this Instagram reel promoting their podcast. And the cardboard is still in the hat.
That's right.
I will say,
really
can I say
me in my track? You didn't know why we put that up there, did you?
I forgot about this. I remember him he said it like a week ago.
In defense of Mr. Costas here, I have done that.
I have too. I 100%
protect the hats from the sweat for longer. That the cardboard will
on purpose.
Yes, on purpose. It will because it doesn't. My head is big enough to where it doesn't make the hat not.
Yeah,
fit.
we have to get different kinds of hats for you.
We do, and so that my hats will last longer and not get the sweat stains if I have the cardboard kind of tucked in there. So it might be weird, but my hats look cleaner as a result.
It's tough to see the cardboard sticking out in the mesh, though.
It is tough.
It's a tough look for Costas.
Yeah. And I will say too, the Caitlin Clark 15 clubs. This was in a what's in the bag thing, guys.
They did like not know better. TC.
Graphic, yeah, but like whoever's doing that graphic should probably just be like, oh, this adds up. She's got like 7 wedges. Like maybe we should take one of these off.
Maybe she's so good she's going to take the 4-stroke penalty and just beat asses anyway. So.
All right, I'm taking us to the housekeeping section. What do we got coming up? We got a VJ Singh pod going out next week. KVV.
Oh boy,
thoughts?
Yeah. We've been working on a little narrative about VJ Singh and his 2004 season. Look for that probably Tuesday night. Solly and I have been working on that for a little bit. You might hear some familiar voices in there. TC is in there. Some other sort of more famous people in there. It was a fun one. We're enjoying keep churning these special projects out. I know that we've got a lot of people out there who have appreciated the kind of time and takes with them, and Justine
kind of topical.
Yeah,
with Scottie winning unofficial win, but 9th win of the year.
That's kind of what it sparked the idea. TC was all his victories this year made me realize like maybe we don't appreciate VJ's 2004 season enough when he truly won 9 official events. So look for that on Tuesday.
All right, we got an LPGA episode coming out. So TC, I'm sure you'll be on there with Cody and Randy, or is it just those two?
Yeah, I've called for. I said, hey, I'd love to chat with you guys on that, and then we're getting the ball knowers together this week too. The ball knowers on the heels of our
person over the weekend. KVV met Hoosh for the first time ever. I love seeing that happen. Got some good picks of the ball knowers. It was a summit down in Austin, Texas.
Randy did his video.
He did.
He did.
We have that.
We can report he did his video.
That debt is paid.
Yeah. We had that, and then Niners kind of righted the ship against KVV's Bears today. KVV's guy Kevin Warren. They were averaging 2 inches per play in the first half. The Bears were.
It's bleak, TC. I've already said
Coach Flus.
I'm already mentally trying to like prepare myself for Coach Cliff Kingsbury to come in and put in 3 years before he gets fired because the Bears just cannot get it right.
Neil's Jets lost again.
Oh God, and another like fourth quarter loss too. So stinky.
But your guy Aaron Rodgers for the first time in 3 years threw for 300 yards.
I know he looked a lot sharper today. I watched most of the game when I got back from the airport. We also got What's Burning at the Kill House going out. Just a roundtable, year-end roundtable. KVV is going to quarterback a little written piece, and then. Yeah, we got a mulligan sale going on in the pro shop. Nest members 20% off through the end of December. Just use your Nest member code with your Nest email address. Get in there. We got some good. We got some T-shirts coming in. Some kind of specialty stuff. We made some retro like bomber jackets that I'm really really excited about. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks, some of the stuff, the shipping deadlines will probably hit.
It's kind of Letterman jacket season with live announcements and stuff like that. So.
And it's kind of a sweet like letter jacket that we got cooked up. But some of this stuff won't. You might miss the holiday shipping deadlines, but good time to join the Nest. You get the 20% off. We got the annual member gift for all 2024 members going out in January. Consider joining the Nest. It helps us out. We appreciate it. nolayingup.com/join. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I think we moved the runner over tonight. Like that is a fantastic effort. The three of us maybe drawing the short straw after a big weekend. But that was a fun one. Let's kick it over to our very own Jordan Perez. She's going to chop it up with KVV and I about golf and video games. I'm going to let that one hang there, and we will see you next week. Cheers.
Crack on.
Bang-a-lang!
Okay, we're going to dive into our final segment tonight, the one for the road. And we're bringing in our very own Jordan Perez with a little piece on video games. KVV, what should we be expecting here?
I mean, we love the kind of these history deep dives, these quirky little parts of golf history. I'm excited. Jordan dug this one up, pitched it to us, and I was like, let's do it. I love golf video games.
Gentlemen, I'm honored to be on your program, but I have one question for the both of you. What is your own personal history with video games?
Ooh, Neil, I'll let you go first there.
That's it's a heavy one for me, Jordan. A lot of scar tissue there. I am not a gamer. Sean and I didn't get a video game console until I was an 8th grader. I was never good. Actually, some moments in college after morning workouts, all my buddies would want to go play Mario Kart or Call of Duty, and I would just get waxed. And I'd be off the controls after one game, and I'd be like, "What? I'm out of here." I get all mad, and I'd leave. So video games are a bit of a sensitive topic for me.
I can go a little deeper than that. I was definitely like a Super Mario Brothers guy, but I think, the Legend of Zelda is what really took me to the next level. I have a very distinct memory of my grandparents were visiting from Great Falls, Montana, and I was like hard into like trying to finish a level on Legend of Zelda. My dad was like very impatient that I was, playing video games. I think maybe a little bit embarrassed in front of my grandparents. And so he just reached over and just like turned it off and like lost all my progress. And I was like burst into tears and stormed out. I was probably 10 or 11 now, which having a 12-year-old makes sense emotionally. But the real true like obsessive part of my gaming came when like Tiger Woods, I think it was 2005, PGA 2005 came out. I got really good at that. I mean, I could shoot in the mid 40s on all those courses. I remember my ex-wife was covering, we were both journalists. She was covering a hurricane down in Texas, and she had no cell phone service. And so we were really like kind of stressing over it. And the way that I dealt with the stress of like not being able to contact her as she was like sleeping through the hurricane was to play Tiger Woods for like 11 consecutive hours through the night until like she was able to contact me that she was okay. So I've been deep in it, Jordan.
The only thing I'll add, the 2 games I did get into was 1080 on N64 and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 was
Oh my
deep in
gosh.
Pro Skater 2. But playing in 5th and 6th grade at my buddy Trey Barton's house, would go over there after school and play Tony Hawk a bunch. So that was maybe the spell where I was like, oh, I'm getting okay at this game. Find the secret tapes, you know. So not a lot of experience with the Tiger Woods game. But Jordan, we're gonna give you the last word here.
Neil, you were shredding. I love that. What a specific genre to get into.
For sure. I was an aggressive inline skater there for a little while. Almost went to Camp Woodward, but that's a topic for the trap draw. We can get into that somewhere else.
So excited to hear that episode someday.
Well, I'm charmed by the fact that you guys are both kind of the opposite ends of the video game spectrum. I think that's really cool. But part of my intrigue into your own personal video game history is the fact that what we're going to talk about today it predates me. I was not alive to, even be in the peripheral or interest of this topic. So we're going to get into it by covering something a little bit broader. The video game crash of the early 1980s led to kind of the ecosystem of video games we kind of know and understand today, which is total market domination of console gaming. And that kind of came around in the late 80s. And that set the path for one of the greatest rivalries, really, of all time, which was Sega versus Nintendo. If you were alive in the early 90s or you know a thing or two about video game history, you've probably heard the phrase, Sega does what Nintendo don't. I think about that a lot. But before Sony and Microsoft, Nintendo's biggest rival is now exclusively software publisher Sega. And their fierce competition in the early 90s kind of spurred some really interesting innovations. And by this, I'm talking like weird gizmos and add-ons and accessories that were either ahead of their time, super strange, commercial failures, or just both. So some of these included Nintendo's Virtual Boy, which is a virtual reality headset, kind of thinking like the Oculus, but in the early 90s, which if you could imagine, it's like this headset that you would put on and all you would see is red. It totally bombed. And then at one point,
I bet Sully wishes he had this. I bet Sully wishes he was deep into this.
Oh, yes. There was a golf game for it, actually. Sega came back at one point and came up with something called the Heartbeat Catalyst. Thinking of all, by the way, that's like a very short list of these like peripherals and weird add-ons. Thinking about all of these makes me really sad because I think about in how many landfills these are probably in, or just existing in people's basements, or just simply paperweights.
Pawn shops, baby.
Pawn shops indeed. Pawn shops indeed. But what if I told you one of the rarest video games of all time was created for one of these ill-fated paperweights? And what if I said it was a golf video game?
Whoa.
I'd say, please tell me more.
Yeah.
Back in the early 90s, golf games were kind of gaining some steam, kind of gaining some popularity, but PGA Tour 2, which was released in 1992, was probably one of the Sega Genesis' most best-selling titles. That ended up inspiring a development of a version for this Heartbeat Catalyst, which was an exercise peripheral that would read your heart rate, motion, and your skin salinity. So you'd attach it to an exercise bike, a treadmill, and essentially it would feed feedback to the game. Like your progress in the game was dependent on the quality of your exercise. So if you over-exercised or you under-exercised, that would count against you. The goal was to get a perfectly sound, steady, consistent workout. This was kind of interesting. It was a fun response to basically like kids just kind of sitting on their couch for hours and gaming. But who wanted to get up and exercise? That was the entire point of gaming.
I love this idea that you could like make yourself a worse golfer by overexerting your heartbeat. Like this was, I'm sure you're too young for this, Jordan, but there was like a controversy back in the 80s, early 90s about golfers taking beta blockers to try to like slow down their heartbeat so that they could putt better. That this was very like all the rumors. Oh, this guy taking beta blockers. He's too good of a putter.
I could empathize with that a little bit because I feel like trying to exercise and like think about the mechanics of playing a golf video game are extremely stressful.
Yeah.
That doesn't really vibe with me. Okay, guys, I'm going to read some of this ad copy for the Heartbeat Catalyst because I think it is absolutely hilarious. One piece says on this ad to order it, the fact, exercise is good for you. The fiction, I use my exercise machine all the time. It's fun. Exercise is good for you. It increases your circulation, can improve your heart strength, plays a role in maintaining or achieving your correct weight, and reduces stress. Great. We all know that. But using exercise machines is boring. Not anymore. The Heartbeat Personal Trainer. $199 plus shipping and handling, which, by the way, is $440 today.
Woo.
Quick confirmation. Are you
Yeah.
with the PGA 2 game, are you playing the game while you're on the exercise bike, or is it strictly just
Yes.
you're exercising? So you're doing both at the same time.
You're doing both at the same time.
Got it. Okay. I love it.
Yeah, your progress in your exercise is influencing the game, which I'll get into a little bit more in a second. And on the back of what was supposed to be the copy of this game, it says, experience the future of fitness with the Heartbeat Personal Trainer. Hit the links with PGA Tour Golf 2 and get a great workout. The only fitness video game with all the sights, sounds, and shots of the PGA Tour. And some of the bullet points they have listed on the side are heart rate interactive, dynamic wind conditions, special shots, chips, punches, and fringe shots, multiple camera angles, instant replay, unique 3D putting grid. Anyway, oh, and by the way, on the cartridge of the game itself, it says, consult a physician before starting a fitness program since exercise could cause physical harm. So, all the right legal...
I want to hit some of these fringe shots, KVV.
Yeah, a little... I'm going to work on my punch shots.
Fringe shots.
You could do that all while getting some good cardio in. Okay, so what would actually happen in this game was it was exclusively driven by your heart rate. So forget the skin salinity, motion stuff. This game was focused on your heart rate. So if you over-exercised, the white swing bar would double in speed, which would reduce your accuracy. And if you under-exercised, the swing bar, quote, can move only about 50%, increasing the likelihood of a hook shot. And just, do we see how this is like so stressful? What are we doing?
So it had no bearing on it was just like if you're cranking along on the exercise bike too high, then you're definitely going to hit a hook.
Yep.
It's not that your hips are going to go early. You're going to hit a massive slice. See, that would have been better if you had the two-way miss going. But I think that's kind of sweet though. It's like, I hit a hook. I need to go down a level on the exercise bike.
I think this would be tough for you, Neil. I think it'd be hard for you not to push yourself and to put the left miss in play.
I'm trying to get my cardio goal for the year. Come on.
I'm a pretty horrific multitasker. I can't think of my own like physical process on, say, like an exercise bike and be like, all right, I'm doing great, I'm feeling good, and like, oh my god, I'm slicing it everywhere. I can't. I just think this would be a nightmare for myself personally.
Jordan, do you know, was this game popular? Did it take off at all?
So I'm getting to that.
Okay.
This very, very stressful for me, possibly not stressful for Neil, where I don't think, experience never saw a widespread retail release. So what ended up happening with the Heartbeat Catalyst is it only saw a production run of 1,000 units, and this specific version of PGA Tour Golf 2 was delayed enough that it fell into this like exclusive club of software that just never fully saw the light of day. And the reason we're even talking about it now is because one Reddit user by the name of Video Game Experiment found, I guess, the only known copy of this.
Wow.
And he posted it about 8 years ago. And I can read out of his post if because I think there's some interesting tidbits in there.
Sure.
So he says, so I was going through a bin of Sega sports games I bought in a store buyout. I was surprised when I found this in there. I can't find any info on this other than they plan to release a PGA game. The only other Heartbeat game that I can find as confirmed release is Outback Joey, which, side note, Outback Joey was the game that came with this peripheral. So that did get a retail release. Back to his post. Some things scream prototype as the artwork is inkjet printed and the label on the cart seems the same. But then it also has a UPC and some sticker residue that implies it had an anti-theft security sticker on it. It's in a standard cart, not the yellow tabbed EA, which was the publisher of the game. There is almost zero mention of EA as well. The cart feels heavier than a standard cart. What a day to discover I've misplaced my bit driver. I tried booting up in a Genesis and just get a beep and a blank screen after the licensed by Sega screen.
I hate it when I misplace my bit driver. That drives me nuts too.
So this is like a I don't know, like discovering the Ark of the Covenant for like video games Sega nerds, right? Like this is one of one essentially.
Yes, this as far as we know, this is one of one. And you might be wondering, I mean, like, how would it, with the video game market, retro gaming, collectors being everywhere, eBay being a thing, how would a copy of this super rare game just go nearly 2 decades without being identified? Because keep in mind, this was the early 90s, and this post on Reddit didn't happen until like 2016. When it comes to video game preservation, sports games always kind of get the short end of the stick, mostly because there's a lot of repetition in year in year out editions, the Maddens, the NBA 2Ks, all that. And honestly, the golf and retro gaming communities have almost no overlap, like very little overlap. And so there's strange people on the internet like myself who are looking for these weird, obscure golf games. There's just really not many of us. It's a lonely it's a lonely place to be. And as Video Game Experiment, the original Reddit poster, said in a video he later recorded, he said, quote, "There's a lot of interest in the uncovering, but not a lot of interest in the product itself, which explains why it took 7 years before anyone dumped the ROM of this game online for public consumption," which finally happened in 2023.
Wow.
So
Somebody out there.
yeah, if what's the guy's name? Video Game Experiential?
Video Game Experiment. It's all one word.
Experiment. Would love to get an update from him. So did he ever find his bit driver and play the game?
I don't think he did.
Okay. Well, if he has now, we would love to hear from him. If anybody can get in touch with Video Game Experiment.
Also,
please.
if you have like a dusty Nordic track in your basement that you can send to him so he can do the exercise portion as well, that would be a complete
definitely monitor
90s
this situation.
experience.
That too. I feel like instead of relying on the ROM, we definitely need to see the actual cartridge and Heartbeat Catalyst and Genesis in action.
Well, Jordan, I'm glad that you have outed yourself as gamer girl, because we've known this about you for a while, but now our audience does. So please send all your gaming tips to Jordan. Should teach you how to defeat those various sticky levels and various Fortnite things.
Any strange video games lying around, specifically golf video games, that are acting as paperweights in your basement, in your attics, anywhere, please let me know.
Love it. Jordan, thank you. Love a good time capsule in the One for the Road segment. KVV, thank you again for your participation and knowledge on tonight's podcast. Thank you to our sponsors, of course, Titleist, Foresight, The Stack, and one last shout out. We've got a mulligan sale going on. If you've ever considered joining the Nest, now is a really good time to do so. Nest members are getting 20% off throughout the month of December in the NLU Pro Shop. We also have the Nest member gifts going out for all 2024 members in January of 2025. So www.nolayingup.com/join. You can also gift the Nest to a avid golfer in your life. Go check that out. You can see all the benefits there. It's $90, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate the support. And we will see you Tuesday and then next week.
Crack on.
Cheers.